Welcome to another podcast episode. I've got a beautiful guest with me, and his name is Hugh Robinson. Hugh, say hello.
Hello. It's great to be here, Rich, and Happy New Year's to you. I just realised I haven't said that so far since speaking to you, and Happy New Year's to anybody who is listening as well. Not entirely sure when this is going out, but I hope you're having an awesome start to your new year wherever you are in the world.
Beautiful. Hugh and I are, I'm a slight hypocrite, I'm afraid. I talk about coffee a lot, but I'm actually armed with a ginger tea, fresh chopped ginger, I'll have you know. What have you got this morning?
Well, it's 9 p.m. here in Australia, so I've actually got a caffeine-free Tulsi sleep tea. So halfway through this interview, you just see me like slobbering and kind of conking out, then you know why. I've swapped this for wine though. I've noticed over the last few months, I've just got into a really bad habit of drinking every night. Like it sounds worse than it is, but like just having one glass of red wine, I just got into the habit of it. And I was like, oh, it's like, 8, 9 o'clock. So I just got into the habit of it. And I've never done that before. And I don't get pissed or anything, but like, I just noticed that. And I was like, oh, it's not a good habit. So I started drinking these, and they're really good actually. They knock you out and get a good night's rest. So yeah, just some nice health tips for you there for you wine drinkers who are chiming in today.
I love that. I love sleep teas. And I've since it's funny enough actually, since you put that post out about coffee drinking, reducing it down, like I've had like 1 or 2 cups over the last week. So
I lasted a day. I did a day without coffee. It was pretty horrible day. And then I realized I was like, oh, maybe if I just drink 1 a day instead of 5, I'll be all right. So just focused on reduction rather than removing it entirely.
Yeah, that I've always had we're going off on a fucking weird tangent here, but I've always had
strictly about beverages, and then we'll substances.
Just so you know, Hugh and I have known each other for a few years in different capacities, so hence why we're just going off on this strange tangent right now. But the coffee thing, I've always had like a hard rule of just 1 a day. Just make it a really high quality, nice coffee. AeroPress bean that's been ground, that kind of thing. No sugars and stuff like that. So I guess when people are talking about cutting coffee out, I think if I cut coffee out, I'd be at ground zero. I'd be at nothing. Yeah. maybe that's been part of my trick to not.
That's good, and that's what I started doing as well. Because what I noticed is I was working from home in the morning, and because I have free access to coffee, just making it, on the spot. Then I'd end up having like 3, and I fast as well. I don't eat until lunch, like kind of 12, 1 o'clock. So I could easily drink 3 coffees between then. But what I've started doing is I go to a cafe up the road that does really, really good cold brew, like good quality cold brew, and I just do my creative work there. Finish at like 11 o'clock, go to the gym, and then I'm good. So yeah, that's been a good break for me. I realize it's more about environment than anything else. And ironically, actually being in a cafe that serves coffee has got me drinking it less, just because I'm actually paying a good amount for it.
yeah, exactly. If that's the trigger that perhaps stops you from drinking the quantity that's available at home. Because that's what I always say to people. Because like, oh, it must be so expensive drinking that and making that coffee that you have. And I'm like, no, actually, it's like a quarter of the price that you pay for a shitty cup from Costa. But then that's the danger as well. When you've got that in your head, you're like, I can smash 4 or 5 of these, and it's still cheaper than driving out to somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And that was what I was like with wine as well. Being in Australia, you can get really good wine for like $10, which is like £5. And I don't really go out very often here either. Like we went out for New Year's. That was the first time in pretty much since like January last year that I've been out. So I was like, save loads of money on alcohol and just drink at home. But yeah, anyway, the start of this interview making me sound a bit like an alcoholic, coffee guzzling lunatic that has literally no control over their lives. So I'm safe to say I'm actually a performance coach, and I do have my shit together. Just the last few months have been quite stressful, and I'm back on the old Tulsi tea and got my life together.
Oh,
So
mate,
we're all good.
People don't want to see perfectionism. Yeah, people want to just see
Yeah.
the real you. So let's. I'm
Well,
gonna
actually,
have.
maybe this is a good tangent. Maybe this is a good tangent because being a performance coach, a lot of the time, like I used to think like the goal was perfection when it came to performance, and it was all about trying to work as much as humanly possible. And like my lack of performance was like time in the day when I wasn't working. And so for me, it was always about perfection, like working more hours, being able to do more. But what I've actually realized is my inherent laziness has actually made me quite a high performer because I'm able to get shit done in a lot less time. And so rather than always trying to be that perfect person, embracing those imperfections and being like, you know what, I can get up at 8 in the morning. I don't have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to be a high performer. I don't need to be working 18-hour days to be a high performer. Pushes me to get all my work done in 2 hours instead of 6 hours, or 4 hours instead of 10 hours. And, that for me has been a real huge shift this last year as well, where I've just been, especially the last 6 months, where I've been like, I don't want to work all the time. And working from coffee shops as well. I try and get all my work done by midday so I can go and do other stuff throughout the day as well. And so that kind of focus on performance for me has actually been pretty good, and taken away from all these kind of personal developments and performance books that you generally read, which are geared around, as you say, like perfectionism. I thought that was a good little tangent there. I thought I'd mention that as well, because I think that's quite, as an entrepreneur who, I imagine most people listening to this will be an entrepreneur in some capacity. There's always a lot of pressure, a lot of self-pressure around, fuck, I need to be doing more, I need to be doing more. But it's not always about doing more. Usually it's actually about doing less, but just being more effective. So, and that's the thing as well. I had a conversation with somebody the other day about this with productivity. Like, you can spend 12 hours in the day building stuff out, building a website, lead magnets, whatever it is, and feel really accomplished because you've got something physically done, but it doesn't get the result that you actually want to get. Whereas sometimes I just go on Facebook and chat to a few people, or someone refers clients to me who refers someone else, and then all of a sudden I've just had a week where I've made $10,000, where I've done like literally next to no work. And I'm like, fuck, that was super productive. But you can't measure that on productivity. And that's where I think productivity is mostly bullshit. So I thought that'd be a good topic to start on anyway.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, productivity is a complete farce. For anyone listening, it is a complete farce. Productivity doesn't actually exist as far as I'm concerned. To-do lists and task lists and things like that, they can lend themselves to certain situations, but most of the time you're just kind of scratching the surface of stuff. At least I found personally when I do to-do lists, they're not deep enough. The things that you actually need to do, because there's only really two things when we're talking about. So if we use the people that Hugh and I work with most, like actual coaches, people that coach other people, the two most important modes to live in are acquiring clients and speaking to clients. That's it.
Yeah.
And then the things that basically, backbone those two things, obviously, creating content that builds up relationships and, other things like that. But that's all the shiny stuff that, quite honestly, initially when you first get started, you don't need it. You don't need it. The communication that lends into it. But Hugh, I'd really love you to tell everyone, like, who are you? Like, who is this guy that's trying to stop drinking so much wine and drinking Tulsi tea? Why are you in Australia but you've got a British accent? Who are you? What do you do? What do you serve the world with, man?
Yeah, so very simply, I'm a human from the UK, as you can probably tell from my accent. I'm a coach foremost. Like, you could call me a marketer as well. I generally don't use that term for myself because there's a lot of negative connotations around marketing. I've made it my personal mission to try and turn marketing on its head and actually make it more about amplifying what's good in the world rather than using smoke and mirrors, which, a lot of the marketing industry does. And, a lot of the lifestyles that people lead, negative lifestyles that people lead is based on obsessive marketing, always kind of implying that people aren't complete, or good enough, and they need this certain product to feel good enough. We're marketed to from birth, basically, and we're imprinted with all these ideas of how we should be. And so for me, I've spent the last 10 years on a really kind of deep journey of personal development. And, in hindsight, when I look back, it's been stripping away a lot of these things, not just from marketing, but like, conditioning from your parents and from environment and everything around that. So, basically, long story short, 10 years ago, I was 16 and my dad had just passed away, and I was kind of at my peak of depression, of anxiety, of just being lost in the world. I was failing in school, had nothing going for me. I was really unfit, bit of a loser at school, had some friends, but I was like the chum of the group. Like I was terrible with women, literally just the definition of a loser, basically. And so, long story short, I turned my life around through exercise, through nutrition, started reading self-development books, actually pulled my finger out my ass, started studying, got to university, did loads of free work and internships and apprenticeships and traveled the world and did all this crazy shit. Before starting an online fitness business and personal development coaching business about 4 years ago. And that led me, transitioning from personal training into that led me to then 3 years ago, literally just less than 3 years ago, I booked a one-way ticket to Thailand after, a bit of a breakthrough where I realized, it's probably shortly after we met, actually, I had a bit of a personal breakthrough, and I realized that I needed to change my environment. I was around people that were reinforcing kind of some negative habits, negative beliefs I had around myself, and I wanted to strip that away entirely. So I thought the easiest way to do that is move to the other side of the country. I wanted to do that outside of the other side of the world, and I wanted to do that, for a lot of different reasons anyway, to go and explore and to adventure and see different perspectives of life. But I moved to Thailand and I lived there for 8 months and, met people from all over the world. There was a lot of expats there, made friends with some of the locals, started studying Buddhism, and really diving into like Eastern philosophy and Stoic philosophy and all these other kind of components of psychology. So long story short, I spent the last 3 years really, really diving into psychology and understanding human performance, which then led me into marketing as well, which sounds like a bit of a tangent, but marketing for me is really fundamentally about understanding psychology and being able to move people and influence people. And going back to what I was saying earlier, marketing can be used very negatively, and it can be used to manipulate people. But how I want to show up in the world is actually using marketing to help build awareness on the areas that people want to work on in their lives, and build awareness onto people that can help them do that as well. So that's why I like working with coaches, and I do work with some other individuals as well. I've worked with gyms and worked with a lot of chiropractors as well. I've been a patient of a chiropractor for the last year, and so I really believe in what they do. But I'm really of the belief of only wanting to work with people who are going to make a positive difference in the world. Like I used to work with anybody, work with people who maybe had good intentions but weren't very good at what they did, people who were extremely money driven and didn't really give a shit about results. For a while working with real estate agents, and I literally have zero passion about that as well. So that's like the short story. But essentially what I do now is I run my main focus is on the program that we run, Hero Launch, which is helping online coaches basically create systems for marketing, conversions and actually creating a group program so they can get amazing results with clients. And then on the back end, we have our agency, our business partner, Ashton, and I, who, run Facebook ads for kind of larger, more established coaches and companies as well.
Awesome. It's very difficult, and I think I'm getting the same sense as I do when I get asked questions like that. It's very difficult to condense, hey, tell me who you are and what your life's all about in like 2 minutes. It's like, shit.
Yeah.
Which bits do I highlight?
Yeah. I think for me, like if you met me, versus my content, I try not to come across inauthentic, but I'm a very deep thinker, and I'm really into philosophy. I'm really into psychology, and so sometimes I can come across very, very intrinsic and very like, if you hadn't met me, you might think, oh fuck, this guy's probably a bit awkward, a bit weird. But on the flip side, I'm also very sociable, and I love people. So sometimes I'm just stupid, and I just do like really silly things, and just like, I am just very human around people as well. Like I find in the coaching industry, in the marketing industry, you find a lot of people who try and kind of, I don't know, put themselves on a pedestal and act differently to other people. But fundamentally, like I grew up a bit of a lad, spent half my life in Yorkshire. I won't really go too much detail into this, but I got lads on tour tattooed on my bottom on a very drunk night in Berlin. But that side of me never really left.
Just stop there. Stop. Right. Which Yorkshiremen have influenced you to get a lads on tour tattoo on your bottom in Berlin?
That's what happens when you live in Leeds.
Leeds.
I was an impressionable 19-year-old, and spent most of that time just getting drunk with my friends, which was fun at the time, but very unfulfilling. Had a few regrets from that. But yeah, as I say, like I'm very like deep and philosophical based, and love psychology and love understanding, human behavior. But at the same time, I try and just enjoy the moments and just do, like stupid shit that humans do, and just enjoying going out, having fun, and I'm trying to do that more and more and more. I noticed the last couple of years when I was really business focused, I stopped doing a lot of that stuff. And I lost a lot of that playfulness that I had, that I think is incredibly important. Like, well, most people generally lose as they get older, because that's how we're kind of trained into society to fit into the corporate world. But for me, I realized like that's really, really important. And even people I know who are like, in their 50s and their 60s, who are really successful, tend to still have those kind of playful elements to them, and they just enjoy life. And that for me is like the most important thing that like that for me than anything else, is just keeping that playful attitude, that happiness, that joy, because that's what keeps your energy up, and that's the most important thing for me.
Got it. Great. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it's very easy to see that trait. I will say horrible, because it is, even people in their 50s and 60s who have kind of bent over backwards, like you say, to fit in, and they're very, very low energy. Yeah. They're just, this is it now. And I was talking to someone the other day, and they were saying they used to work in corporate, and they used to sit opposite this guy who literally had a daily countdown to when he was going to retire. Right?
How old was this guy? Was he retiring in 20 days? Or was it like, it's only 21 years to go?
6 years. He had 6 years left. Right, so like on every Friday, he'd basically like announce the amount of days that he had left until he could retire. So he's just like counting life down.
Wow. I get annoyed when I see people who are like, oh yeah, only 90 days until my holiday. I'm like, fuck me, like you're literally waiting to live. Like this is the thing I hate about like the societal conditioning that a lot of people have. It's like you're not allowed to enjoy your life unless we've told you can do that, and you can go on holiday and share it on Instagram with other people, and that's when you're enjoying life, or when there's these events at the weekend. And it's like that's not how it is. Like you can enjoy, like I'm on a mission just to enjoy every single day, and that isn't about living it large and going out and partying and doing all this other crazy shit. Like sometimes for me it's just going for a long walk and listening to an audiobook, and that's enjoyable because I'm doing something that I've chosen to do. It's like I'm not being controlled by anything else. That's one of the things I love about being an entrepreneur. It's like we dictate our own time, we dictate our own hours. We can work where we want, do what we want. It's like that kind of that kind of like fuck you to the system and not living the status quo. It's freeing, and it does make the world a better place, because if you show up more energetically, if you show up more authentically, if you genuinely love your life, then the people around you pick up on that energy and it lifts them up. And then when they lift up, the people around them lift up as well. And it has that knock-on effect as well. And I was watching an interview with Mind Valley, and I can't remember who was on it, but they were talking about the There were some studies done where they're talking about how people who raise their vibrational frequency, like monks that are kind of going into cities and moving location and stuff, like has a indirect effect on their environment around them. And I don't know how scientific this is, by the way, but I just like the idea of that, and that concept that one person, by raising themselves and raising their own standards, raises the standards of people around them. And I think fundamentally that's not about making more money, or it's not about like those kind of surface level things. It's more like an energy. When you raise your energy and you see those people that walk into a room and the energy just feels like different, just the room like is pulled up. That for me is my goal. I want to be that person. And I know like I've struggled with fatigue over a lot of years. And I'm just constantly trying to work on that and improve that, because I know that if I improve my energy, my whole life just completely changes. And I want to try and promote that with other people as well.
Yeah, 100%. And don't, I'll say this to anybody else, and I'll say this to you. You don't need to apologize for worried about things being like scientific, because like when I was in the military, it was so important that everybody had good energy and a high level of morale. Because if you didn't, then the whole unit would be pulled down. Everyone would just be, dog shit, basically.
Yeah.
So, you'd be threaders. So you've got one guy that's just moping around in the corner, unless you were to lift him up and just help him realize, hey, guess what? It's only a few days until we go home, or don't worry about the missus, she'll be fine, or so and so. Like if you don't lift that person up, then that just infects, and that happens everywhere, as well. Like
I've seen it.
Society, in offices, even working as remote as what we do. Most of the time, if you've even got like a virtual assistant or something like that isn't quite, as high energy as you want them to be for themselves, not just, for you. Yeah. It starts rubbing off in places. So I love the idea of that, how one person just go into a mass population and it just, starts seeping out.
Yeah, it just has a huge impact. Yeah, I mean, not quite to the same extent of being in the army, but I've seen that in different things as well. Like I played sports at university. I played quite a high level of hockey, and in my final year, I was the captain of my team, and it was my duty not just to lead the team in terms of trying to do well in the game and strategize. It was also about, it was that energy. It was morale at the start and like pumping everyone up, doing talks, like just making everyone laugh. Like, the freshers who first years and they're really nervous because they never played before, and things like that. And then even on the back end of that, on the night out, when, some of the guys were like really sociable and like, trying to get around and meet new people when we're in the bar. And then some of the guys are really shy, and I'd always kind of pull them out and try and pick them up a bit. And I've always kind of, I don't know if I've always been like that, but for a long time now, I've tried to be that character that is the positive reinforcement in the room. And it's hard sometimes because, when things aren't going well in your own life, sometimes it can feel like you're being a bit like fake, because, like we all have challenges, and last year for me was incredibly challenging on a lot of different levels, and I was extremely stressed, but I still maintained like as much as possible like this higher energy state, and trying to still, with whatever I was doing, still stay positive, and that really just kept me going. Like it's kind of like tricking yourself into feeling good. It's not, because you don't need to have much to feel good, but we think we do. And even when you're struggling financially, or even when you're struggling, you've got personal things going on, like you can still feel good. But because of our conditioning, we often feel guilty for that. If you owe people money, and you're not doing well financially, like you want to kind of not show that you're feeling good, because people are like, well, why are you doing so well then if you borrow money and things like that? Or if somebody around you's had like, some personal loss or issues, then being really positive sometimes can be a bit of an insult to other people. And that for me was really hard, finding that fine line of being like unapologetically me and being positive without like that being too enforcing on other people. And I find that is like a fine line for most in society.
Yeah, and because, and again, this happens. I've had a lot of transitions like this myself, of where you have these breakthroughs and you have these experiences, and then you come back to like not normal life, and you're like,
Mm.
oh, I recognize like this feels really foreign to me now. Like, so I'll use, been in the military again as an example. So we weren't allowed off base for the first, 3 to 4 weeks. So it's intensive, no phones, no contact with the outside world, anything. And then, so you go through this very strict regime of you get up at this time. It's like, like a Jocko Willink
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah,
Get up at 4:30, everything to the letter. You're going to learn how to, march, how to fucking look after yourself, how to fucking shoot, blah, blah, blah. And you get so much done inside of a day. So when you come home and you speak to a friend, or you speak to a family member, you're like, oh, so what have you been up to? Because basically you've just done like 2 to 3 years worth of experiences, in a month. You've learned all the cool shit that you've never done. You come back and you're like, and they're like, oh, not much, not been up to much.
yeah,
Like, and you're like, that's that sinking feeling that I'm sure you'll have had a bunch of times where you're just like, the world moves so slowly and people are just shit to change their fucking lives. That for me was a massive moment, because that was when I realized I can't go back to that level of existence anymore.
yeah.
And that's not because I don't love those people or those friends. I've obviously still got these people as friends, but over time, you talk about like raising other people up to your level. That's exactly what I've done. Now that's taken over, like 11, 12 years to do, but like those friends that we've remained in contact with, and family members and stuff, like I've raised their level of vibration, their level of understanding of the world. So like, when have you had a big moment like that where you've been and done something really intensive, you've had that breakthrough and you've come away and you've been like, you don't recognize yourself or you don't recognize other people?
I've had that a few times. I think like a big one was actually for us in when we met actually at that event in the UK, like just over 3 years ago. Prior to that, being through quite a few break and it's one of those things that unless you're there, you don't really understand it. Like especially in the UK, like more than anywhere else that I've seen, is like a very, very closed off to personal development and deep work, working on yourself and reflecting on yourself. Like it just seems to be just a bit of an alien subject in the UK. So then when I do that and then go and speak to people, friends who are just, live a very surface level life, they just don't really understand it. And I try and explain it to people, and it just doesn't really get through. And it was frustrating at first, but, over a lot of time I realized like, well, everybody has their own level of awareness, and it's not for you to necessarily force that on them. So I share my truth with people, and if they don't really understand it, that's cool. I kind of just step away. But I totally understand, and it's hard. And that's why I actually spend a lot of time by myself. I'm like introverted, extroverted. So like I can go out and I can be really energetic with people and very, really sociable, but I also need that time by myself to kind of refresh my energy, to meditate, to write, to journal. And that for me is what keeps me in in a higher energetic state. I watch a lot of videos. There's a channel on YouTube called Charisma in Command, and they're talking about Chris Hemsworth and how charismatic he is, and they did another one on Chris Pratt as well from from the Marvel films, and talking about how charismatic they are. One of the things that they do a lot is actually they make themselves laugh, and you see that with a lot of charismatic people, and they share that on social media sometimes. But if you can make yourself laugh, if you can entertain yourself while you're by yourself, then that actually raises your vibrational frequencies. So then if you go out and you speak to people, you have a knock-on effect. And even on a small micro level, I've seen that in myself, where if I just get up and then I just go through, and then I just go to the coffee shop and work, I'm a bit like, I'm not very friendly. I'm a bit like closed off. I'm a bit like, oh, yeah, just have my coffee and just get on with work. Whereas if I go through a really good morning routine, and what I'll do is I'll get up, I'll meditate for 20 minutes, I'll do some deep breathing, I'll have a cold shower, jump up and down a bit and listen to some house music, and then I'll walk down and I'll go to the coffee shop. I'm much more friendly. And my body language is different. My projection's different. My energy is just completely different. And even again, like this is just like subjective, but from what I've seen, like when I do that in myself, I find that people approach me more as well. Like I'm not doing anything differently, but like when I'm in a high energy state, I just find people just approach me randomly. Sometimes I'm just sat at a coffee shop doing work and someone will just randomly come over and start talking to me. That's happened a lot when I've kind of worked on myself, and I've noticed that over the last few years. And it's different in different places, but Australia is probably similar to the UK in terms of how people are. Like in Asia, it was very different. There's a lot of expats. People would naturally just do that anyway. But over here, it's probably the same as in the UK. So people wouldn't actually just come over to you and just start a conversation randomly. But sometimes that happens when I'm getting in that kind of level.
Awesome. So a couple of things there then. So it's funny you mention about the introvert extrovert thing. I was talking to James Moody about this.
Yeah.
When I was in Spain, and he's very much I'm exactly the same, and I kind of tag this as like situational extrovert. So, but like now, like as we're doing this, we're putting our energy out, and we're like, we're excited about it. But then, if we don't need to be like just spurting energy out unnecessarily, we come back down to this lower state, and we're quite happy. I'm quite happy in my own, just being by myself, and reading and watching things and creating. I'm happy to do that, and I see that in my youngest son, Harry.
Yeah,
he's like, when everyone's around, he's just like, woo, let's fucking do this, and he's like smashing the roof off stuff. But then I'll watch him through the glass, into the lounge, and he'll just be sat with like two cars, just like talking to himself, just like.
Sounds just like me, yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. So whether that's a leadership thing, I don't know.
It's hard because it's like I always think about this. I'm like, are these traits that people are born with, or are these just fundamentals that we all have access to? And I personally believe that it is the latter. I think we all have access to these different characteristics, to these different modalities and personality traits. But it's just that rewiring to get there that most people don't struggle with. And I think if you've grown up as an introvert, to be extroverted is very hard. And probably the other way around as well, like to be somebody who's really extroverted and then to go away and actually just spend time completely by yourself, I imagine is very hard. I was a bit like this growing up because I was like your son, like really, really extroverted when I was a young kid, up until about the age of maybe like 9 or 10, where I had like some personal family stuff go on, and my parents got divorced and things like that. And because that's when we moved to Leeds, like when I was a little bit older, I think I was like 13 actually, we moved to Leeds. And because I didn't know anybody, and I moved to a new school, and I kind of got bullied a bit because I was like a posh kid. I went from being quite extroverted to being like really kind of shy and reserved for like quite a long period of time. And then when I went to uni and I started getting involved with sports and always having like quite a big group of friends, I then started getting more and more extroverted again. So I've been thinking about that, and I'm like, am I fundamentally an extroverted person that's just through conditioning become a bit more introverted? Or is the whole concept of introvert and extrovert actually just complete bullshit? And these are things that fundamentally we all have access to. Like we should all be reflecting and spending time to reflect on ourselves, which is introverted. And we all are supposed to be tribal. We're all supposed to connect with each other. We're all very similar. And in fact, we should connect with each other and train ourselves to do that, because it's actually progressive for humanity to do that. And we all are fundamentally have the skills of an introvert and an extrovert.
Yeah, got it. And again, like it's like the nature nurture thing as well.
Yeah.
So like I definitely got nurtured into being a communicator. So biological father, my mother, then my stepfather, and so they're all communicators, and I watch them all do like lots of selling in lots of different sales roles, and then inside the family business. Like my stepfather was a police officer, so I got to see him in lots of different situations, like diffusing people, and like giving someone medical attention with a shit handle through the head at the side of the road when we were driving past one day. So all sorts of stuff like that made me realize you can tap into those places and things, and be a leader, if the situation calls upon it. Or again, you can be a follower. You can be someone that has the respect for that person that's leading the situation, and have your input if you think it's potentially dangerous to follow their instruction, or just be happy to go along and support the rest of the team, just be a good team player, something like that. But that's cool about the tribal stuff, because I've been thinking a lot about this, over the last couple of months, the tribal thing. I think so many people close themselves off, because Tony Robbins talks about significance, right, as being one of the needs. And I guess sometimes people are trying to find significance in being so different to everybody else. When in actual fact, maybe that's actually some of that might be read like in a different sort of context, and then be actually driving connection between people apart, because they're trying to find significance, and then there's no relatability with anybody else.
That's the journey I've been on. Yeah, no, exactly. That's the journey I've been on the last few years as well. And I was that person. I always thought I was different, and I tried so much to be different that I just felt completely isolated. Like I couldn't connect with other people, because I was like, people don't understand me. I'm different. And then when I was in Thailand and Bali, 3 years ago, and I moved there, I spent so much time meeting so many different people and being able to connect with them. People from all different backgrounds, different walks of life, different religions, from different areas of the world. And that for me, like, really reaffirmed that significance is about connection. It's not about being different. It's not about, you speaking your truth and you being true, and you having specific skills that you either are inherently good at and train yourself up over time to get better at, or you just explore and decide you enjoy and get better at, is one thing. But like, fundamentally, I think we all, on an emotional level anyway, connect with each other, because it doesn't matter what story you have, and that's been built up from conditioning, from skills, from teachers, from religion, from where you've grown up in the world. We all feel the same way. We all have the same emotions below the thoughts. And I've been thinking really deeply about that, like the last 6 months since I last went to Thailand, and I met some really amazing people out there. I was on a very kind of spiritual journey, and I was like, well, fundamentally, like we literally are all, on a very deep level, we are all the same. What covers that is the ego, and is everything that's layered on top of us throughout life. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's great, because we can explore those feelings in different ways. But as you're saying, like I believe that that significance does come from connection, like doing what you love and sharing it with other people. I think it's really important. Like if you just spend all your time isolated, doing stuff you enjoy but never sharing it with other people, like, it's depressing. It really is. Like, it's super depressing. I've been there. Whereas if you're really passionate about something and you find other people who share that passion with you, there's just like this magic. There's this like connection, this buzz, this energy. And you might have a really, really niche interest that very few people, share, but someone will somewhere, right? Like even weird shit, right? People, there's always other people that are going to be interested in the same stuff as you. Yeah,
guaranteed. You'll find that stuff in the dark place of YouTube.
Yeah. Well, a good example is my brother, right? Not in that example, but he's in a death metal band, right? He's a really talented guitarist. Play guitar from a really young age. Really amazing guitarist, but he loves death metal, like grindcore, like really fucking heavy shit. Grew up listening to like Cannibal Corpse and stuff like that, and like, it's a very, very, like, very few people listen to that in terms of percentage in the world and in the UK. But his band are really successful for that genre. Like they tour the world. They do a lot of European tours, and the people who he connects with, like they get on really, really well. And that for me is like a really good example of that. Like if he can kind of do that and connect with people, then yeah, I think you can connect with people over anything. Like hobbies is a very easy way to connect with people. Like if you're interested in something, like, I love to, diving and skiing. I don't do them very often, but I love diving and skiing. Right? I can go talk to somebody about that, or fitness and training. I can talk to somebody about or like my passion in marketing and sales and building an online business or travel. Like I can find a topic and get really into that, and if I find somebody else who's really into that, then we just connect really well. And putting yourself in an environment where you're more likely to meet people like that is obviously going to be important as well, and that makes you feel significant when you're part of a community of people. It might not be a team per se, but just meeting other people with those similar interests and beliefs as you, it builds connection. It does build significance as well.
Yeah, 100%. I like a lot of the weird music. The people might say weird music. I do. I'm into all that stuff. I've got a very. You're probably the same. Been a broad thinker. Like if you probably looked at my Spotify, you'd just be like, how do you go from listening to that to that? That is like that is bizarre. But I'm sure like give us some examples of the stuff that you love listening to.
I'm not that varied at the moment. Like I used to be a lot more varied, but like for example, the first hour of the right for an hour. Then when I'm getting pumped up for the gym, I'll listen to some deep house music, a lot of Dutch stuff, like Don Diablo, really into. So listen to a lot of that. Then if I'm going for a heavy workout, I'll start listening to like Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and Metallica and getting really kind of like into a bit of like a darker kind of like really focused mindset. And then when I'm chilling out, I'll listen to all sorts. And sometimes I walk home from the gym and I'll listen to the Lion King soundtrack, right? It's quite an eclectic, few hours in my day if you're looking at my playlists and what I was listening to. But yeah, I'm the same. Like I used to listen to a lot of heavier stuff. I don't really listen to as much. I used to be really into like hardcore punk when I was younger. I used to get to loads of gigs where people were basically just beating shit out of each other. But it was good fun. Right? You just go like just basically just playing at pubs in Leeds, but like all these hardcore bands.
Mosh pits.
That was pretty fun. Yeah. And it wasn't even a mosh pit. It wasn't people like pushing each other. Like people would literally punch you in the face and stuff. It was pretty nuts. But yeah, I used to listen to stuff like that. And so, yeah, like a couple of months ago, I went on a date with my girlfriend and we went to the orchestra and they were playing the music from Final Fantasy. All right. So like, yeah, my music taste is just, very, I guess, eclectic and very all over the place, a bit sporadic.
Yeah. Love it. That's, I tend to find that a lot with people who are like great coaches, and have that ability to sit on the fence and see both sides of the story, or jump over to one side and argue for that, or jump back over to the other side and argue for that. Like I do tend to find that with coaches, like they're prepared to listen to everything for that exact reason. Sweet.
Yeah.
So what
I think?
Sorry.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. I think like on two levels, like being a deep thinker, but then also being very empathetic, which I think generally, if you're a coach, you are those things, or if you're a good coach, you're going to be those things. And I'm definitely someone who's very empathetic, like I feel people's emotions and take stuff quite personally sometimes, and then also do think very deeply into stuff. But I think like, yeah, it's a good point. Like you have to be a good listener, and that's very literal when it comes to music as well. Like if you're open-minded and willing to listen to anything, then I hate it when people say, I don't like that type of music. I'm not even going to try and listen to that. It just pisses me off. I'm like, well, just give it a go. Like you might enjoy like one song,
I feel the same way. It used to annoy me. But now instead I ask them like what they listen to. And I'm like, share with me. And they'll come out with some fucking weird band that I've never even heard of. And I'm like, sweet. Thanks for adding a new band I've never heard of to my Spotify list.
Yeah, it's a good response. Right? And that's what I should, what I'll do next time someone says that, because I can be a little bit, when it comes to music, sometimes I can be a bit lacking in understanding of other people when they're extremely closed-minded. Like the one thing that triggers me is when people just listen to chart music and only listen to stuff that's like hits. But yeah, that's something that maybe will help me connect with people on another level if I can be a little bit more understanding of that.
Mm. Yeah, it's like when I go places, I'm always looking for like albums or things that I've never heard of before. So I've got one of the first apps that's on my phone when I open up my iPhone is Shazam. I'm always
Yeah, yeah,
Shazamming everywhere I go, or just recording the sound up near a speaker or something like that.
yeah.
Maybe there's something in that for my future. Who knows? I love music. I've got all my instruments up on the wall. Just here and
Nice. What do you play?
guitar, blues harp. I think pretty much most instruments that you put in front of me, I could probably play just through
That's cool.
intuition and just ears
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah, I've got a nice feeling for it. But
That's cool.
what? So if we were fast forward into the future, let's say 15, 20 years, what would you be known for? What would you be known for? What would people like if they came to your website or if they came to listen to you speak? What is it that you would be doing, in sort of 15, 20 years from now?
I think it would be actually more about human performance and psychology. There's a few things I have in the pipeline that I'm working on that may eventuate into something, they may not, but I'm just mainly doing them out of exploration at the moment. So the first one, I'm writing a children's novel, and it's quite, when I say children, probably around the age of like at least 10 plus. Like, it's quite an intricate storyline, talking about three kids that fall into a different dimension and they basically have to save this new world. Long story short, I came up with this story when I was on a mushroom trip in Thailand. I wrote the entire plot of this book when I was with my two friends, and they were like, holy shit, this is fucking genius. And I was like, shit, how did I come up with this? So I'm trying to piece it together now, and I'm just committing to writing a page a day at the moment. So my goal is to finish that at the end of the year. But I'm like, in my head, I'm like, this is a fucking sick story. I just need to be able to actually tell it well, and get what's in my head written down into paper really well, and get the dialogue really nailed in. And it got me really thinking as well. I was like, holy shit, like, I limit myself so much. Like, I don't have to just be this one thing. Like, I don't have to just be a marketer. I don't just have to be a coach. I don't have to do anything. And there's a lot of different things that I haven't explored yet that I have some interest in that I may go into. I've always wanted to actually get into acting. I actually had acting lessons in the UK just before I decided to leave. So I never really carried on pursuing that. But I think that's something I'll probably pursue in the next few years, just on an interest level. Maybe it'll go further, maybe not. Speaking is probably the biggest thing. So I want to start doing some more physical talks this year. So going to be running an event in the next couple of months for our business, but then I'd like to try and network and do some other stuff as well, more for the fun of it. A personal challenge of mine is doing stand-up. When I've had a few drinks, I can come out with some pretty inappropriate jokes. But I think actually being able to write proper comedy, I think, would be a good challenge. And I think doing stand-up, like, even if it was just a one-time thing, I think like doing some sort of course and then going and doing stand-up would be pretty awesome. I realize I'm kind of avoiding the question here, but I don't generally think that far ahead. Like, the way that my life is planned out at the moment, like, I'm leaving the UK, I'm leaving Australia in April. I'm going to be traveling kind of Australia, Asia, and Europe for 5 months before moving to the Netherlands with my girlfriend this September. We're going to live there for at least a year, and then we don't know where we're going to go after that. So I've got a very open book when it comes to that. And I'm a bit like that in terms of how my life is unfolding. I realize that a lot of the time we get stuck wearing one hat sometimes, and we think that because I've just been doing this for the last few years, this is the rest of my life. And I'm like, like, we're both young, and I'm 26, right? And I'm like, I'm still just figuring this out. All right, the last 10 years of my life has kind of evolved, and it's been quite a fairly linear evolution. Like, one thing has clearly led into the other. Like, I went from physically personal training to online personal training to essentially, the best term to describe it is like personal development or life coaching. Because of that, I learned marketing, so it got me into marketing. And then because of my background, I started marketing for gyms and then marketing for coaches. So it was this natural evolution that's just kind of come from there. But then there's a limit to that. And then I'm like, well, what if I actually did something completely different? And, you know, for example, maybe wrote this book and it became a big hit and I ended up doing something else around writing, right? Or became an actor or do something completely different. There's nothing stopping me from doing that. There'll be a lot of skill progression that I need to do because I'm untrained in those areas. But I think a lot of the time we really, really limit ourselves based on education or based on just work experience. And so for me, I'm just going to keep going with it.
Maybe as well, like people
What's
have
that?
told, or been told, like, or what
Oh
you've
yeah,
listened to, like, you know, for parents, friends, and stuff. You can't
yeah,
do
yeah,
that. You'd never be
yeah,
able
yeah.
to do. Yeah. So, yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. I
No, you're
completely.
right.
I mean,
You're right.
you can see me
Yeah,
nodding, you know, as you're talking, but I think that's. I kind of see what you're getting at with this answer is that
yeah. Mm.
it's a very
Yeah. So
it's a
to
very
flip,
limiting question.
yeah,
I hate the question. That's why I
yeah,
ask it.
yeah, yeah. It's good. It's good. It's I hate it when people ask me like, "Oh, what's your 5 or 10 year plan?" I'm like, I don't want one. Like, if I was living true to a 5 year plan, it would just rip the excitement and spontaneity out of my life right now. And you know, I'm sure one day when I have kids, I will definitely need some more structure in my life. But right now, being a bit more unstructured is good. I enjoy it. Like, I live out of a backpack. I have done for the last 3.5 years, and I will carry on doing that for at least the next year and a half when I'm, when I move back to Europe, and probably carry on doing that. And that in itself has been a really good act for me because it's forced me to not be materialistic. It's forced me to live really minimally and focus more on what matters in life, which has been meeting new people and having more experiences rather than just trying to buy stuff. Not having my own place. I was very close to actually buying an apartment in Bristol, where I was living before I left the UK. Like, my mum was actually offering to, pay half the deposit, and I would have just rented out one of the rooms. I would have lived in the other room. And yeah, I'm very glad I didn't, because I would have been stuck there and I wouldn't have done had that kind of the last 3 years of my life, which have been absolutely incredible. So yeah, I mean, in terms of your question, it's that for me is just my philosophy. I think everyone's different. Sometimes I think a lot of people would struggle to live my life because it is incredibly unpredictable, and can be incredibly unstructured as well. So to be honest, the last year has been quite stressful for me, and I like, even with like the way I am, it's really put me to the test this last year. So this lifestyle definitely isn't for a lot of people, but it has really humbled me and brought me to my knees and challenged me in so many different ways. So yeah, carrying on living that kind of lifestyle over the next few years and just seeing what happens, and not being too attached to what I'm doing right now, because I think for the next year or two, I'll be very focused on this business, and we've got some huge goals with this business this next year. But it's not to say that this is the be all or end all for the rest of my life. Like, I might decide that I want to pursue something else.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's nice that you can be in business with Ashton, and he understands that as well. That you are free beings. You're not just that label that's above the shop door. Actually, there's a lot of other stuff, a lot of intricacies that go on behind the scenes internally, within yourself, as well as the relationships that you have, again, with yourself or with other people. So,
yeah,
no shackles, Robinson.
One thing that's just come up, actually, and this is a goal of both mine and Ashton's within our business. Like, we want to get to a level this year where we're actually able to invest a lot of our money into startups and initiatives that are having a positive impact on the environment. And that's something I'll definitely do on a personal level the next few years, getting involved with kind of more environmentally focused things. And I've had ideas over the last few years about like starting, clothing companies that's like ethical clothing, like hemp and bamboo clothing that also supports like a cause. I always have like little ideas, but I just haven't really had the time or energy or focus to really want to pursue that fully. But there's always things like that. But I think definitely long term, I want to do something that's really, really impacting the environment. For me, the reason why I like working with coaches and why my background has been coaching is because I'm like, I want to impact the world in a positive way. But fundamentally, like, if we don't fix the environment, then we're all fucked. So that on a deeper level is the most important thing. And it's like, I feel like by raising people's consciousness, which is what coaching does, that is going to help in one aspect. But then on the other, it's also fixing the problem that's there already around, everything from pollution and everything else in between.
Yeah, got it. Do you think by fixing the people that fixes the next problem, or the bigger problem, the more core problem, which is the Earth itself?
I think it's a double-edged sword. I think like because I mean, it's our responsibility to take initiatives to start doing things that are going to positively impact the environment. And obviously there are a lot of people doing that, which is great, but right now there's not enough. And the decline is faster than the incline in terms of what we're doing, and just what we're doing is just not sustainable. So it's like, yeah, I don't know if I'd ever have anything that comes to mind that like saves the planet, but if I'm in a position where I can invest, if there's like some startup that has this fucking amazing idea, and sometimes you see them, like I see these like videos from like Indonesia and stuff, like just some random like kid with no money that's just come up with this fucking incredible idea. It's like, but what if that kid actually had a startup fund of $100,000? Like where would that go? So that's the kind of level I want to get at in the next kind of year or two, being able to invest in like initiatives like that. Because I mean, I don't see I'm not an engineer. I don't see myself coming up with, ideas like that, but I can still play my role in helping those, and being a communicator, being someone with a good network, and that's obviously going to build over time as well. That's always going to help as well, like not just the finances, but actually being able to connect people to the right people. I want to be that person, and that doesn't always mean business, but like, I think as you level up and meet more people and do more things, you're going to meet people of influence who can, impact that as well.
Yeah, got it. So I want to move on to the quick fire questions. Yeah.
Fire away.
I love what you've shared, by the way. Absolutely.
Yeah, I realised it's been quite been a little bit unstructured my end, but I think like it's.
Don't you dare apologise right now.
I try. No. I try and I think sometimes I try and structure things too much, but these kind of interviews are always more fun because they're a bit more real and they're a bit more, like I'm not coming on to try and prove something. It's just a conversation that's, hopefully interesting to other people. And, and certain parts might resonate with some people, certain parts might resonate with others. And then some people might just find this incredibly boring, tedious, or think I'm a weirdo. But it's all good, it's all good because I'm just sharing.
Mate, my aim, with getting you on here was to, share you more with the world. That was it, so more people could experience your energy. I know how good it is. I've got other people that know how good it is. So more people just need to see that. So that was
appreciate that.
So being real was like the number one thing, and that's been achieved. So quick fire questions. So I'm just going to ask these as they come off, and I just want you to answer as quickly as you can. This will just give people a little bit of insight to you, some of the quirky weirdness, which is Hugh Robinson. All right. So quick fire question number 1: favorite swear word?
Maybe shitballs.
Shitballs. All right.
Yeah.
Quick fire question number 2: what's your biggest turn on?
Big asses, definitely.
Big asses, love it. Quick fire question number 3: what sound or noise do you love?
Water. I mean, I live near the sea here, but I love water. Just the sound of. I actually love. Like, people hate it when I say this, but I love rain. Like when it rains here, my girlfriend always gets really upset, and I'm like, oh yeah, brilliant. I just love I love like just lying inside, listening to the rain. For me, it's like it just makes me feel like. So I actually like being in the rain as well when it's not too cold. It's quite refreshing, and it's like it makes you feel quite connected. But that sound for me is like super relaxing.
Love it. Quick fire question number 4. What was the last meal you would eat before you died?
Well, I'd have a pizza for a start. A fucking good one, not any of this this cheap frozen shit, like a proper Italian pizza.
Is this snobbery coming out now?
yeah, with some pretty crispy, streaky bacon on the side. And oh god, so many things. It'd be a bit of a feast, and then and some sort of chocolatey, desserty brownie ice cream for dessert, or some chocolate sauce. That's a hard one. That's a hard one. But pizza would definitely be in there.
So you could die again. That's what we're saying. You'd eat something that you could basically take into your next life, and you'd have diabetes.
Well, yeah. So. Yeah, well, I'd be taking diabetes into my second life, but I have, you know what? I'd probably have a pizza, a really good pizza, and then have like a Nutella pizza with ice cream on it. Put fudge sauce over the top. That'd be pretty good.
We're all getting the idea now. So if anybody's lost for birthday presents for Hugh, as perhaps listening to this, you now know to get him something pizza related. Something pizza related. Awesome.
Well, it's my birthday in 2 weeks, and we're actually my girlfriend's taking me to a really good pizzeria. I've already told her that, so that's what we're getting. No surprise that you take me here.
Sweet. Quick fire question number 5. What is your favourite perfume or cologne to smell on others?
Sweat, just hard work and sweat. I don't know. Is this like an attraction thing, like what I like to smell on a woman, or is this like
you're asking too many questions? You just need to answer instinctively. The answer doesn't matter.
What's the hard one? Freshly mown grass.
You like to smell that on other people?
Yeah.
Cool.
I think they've been rolling around in the dirt.
Quick fire question number 6. What's the last gift that you bought someone?
Oh fuck! It's just been New Year's and Christmas. A journal.
Cool. Quick fire question number 7. Are you an early riser or a night owl?
Yeah, I tend to go to bed early, and then get up late.
Got it. So a mixture. So
I sleep for 12 hours a night. No, I've been in this weird habit this last week. I've literally been sleeping like 11 hours a night. I don't know what's up there, but I generally like to get up reasonably early. When I was a PT, I'd get up at 4:30 in the morning. That was pretty horrible, but 6 o'clock, if you'd consider that early. I know some people who are the hardcore hustlers wouldn't, but that for me is pretty early. So yeah, I generally prefer to get up earlier.
Sweet. Quick fire question number 8. Tea or coffee?
Coffee.
Cool. We can remain friends. Quick fire question number 9. Favorite place in the world?
Probably Cape Town in South Africa. That was an incredible place. The people, the food, the place. Yeah, Cape Town.
Cool. So far,
yeah.
Yeah, because obviously you've got the rest of the world to explore, Mr. Robinson.
Going to Japan next year, so I reckon that'll probably top it.
And that's an interesting question, right? Because if I was to ask you in, 5, 6, who knows, 10 years' time, that same question, then you'd have this huge, because your consciousness is raising the whole time, your intelligence level, wisdom and stuff. So then you might actually go back to one of the first places ever, actually say, well, that's this reason, because now I'm deep rooted there. So we need to ask that question in 10 years' time.
Yeah.
Quick fire question number 10. Have we seen your best yet?
Nah, definitely not.
I'd agree with that. Awesome. Dude, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on and, sharing your stuff with us. And I know we've only heard a very small portion about you, and what you've achieved and what you're wanting to achieve and what your power is in the world. But I sure appreciate you coming on for the time to, to share that little glimpse of Hugh Robinson. How, for anyone that's listening, do you want to just give people in an idea of where they might get you, like your website, your Instagram, your socials and stuff?
Yeah, for sure. So if you want to check more of my personal stuff out, you can head over to Instagram and just search Hugh James Robinson. And you can find me on Facebook if you search Hugh Robinson. Feel free to follow or even add me on my personal profile to go live and put content pieces out there. For business stuff, you can search Hero Launch Coaching on Instagram. And for our website, that's just go to hughRobinson.co and you can kind of find out about Hero Launch there if you want to learn more about marketing and all the techie stuff behind what we do.
Excellent. Dude, thank you so much. And I'll make sure, I'll put all that in the show notes and the descriptions as well so people can go ahead and find you. And I always ask people like, is it cool that they come and add you on, your personal profile and drop you a PM and say hello?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny the amount of supermodels that add me on Facebook these days. So many supermodels. And I'm always like their first friend as well. It's quite humbling actually, like the amount that add me.
You've really gone out of your way, love, to find me. I like this. This is incredible.
Yeah. You always have to scroll through the profile, don't you? And you're like, oh no, that's it.
I don't want to come onto your live cam in the next 5 minutes. I don't have my credit card on me, love. I'm sorry.
I mean, that's all good. Anyone can connect with me, and as long as they don't send me weird shit, then it's all good. Or send me weird shit. We'll see.
No dick pics. I said no dick pics.
No dick pics. Yeah, strictly no dick pics.
Dude, thanks so much for coming.
Thank you very much for having me on, good sir.
Yeah, you too, man. Thanks so much for everyone for listening. I've been richwellington.com. Have an awesome time, whatever you're up to, and just give a little wave to Hugh. Ta-ta!